Hi guys, it's Julene with Jovi Star Astrology. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well and I hope you guys had a great 4th of July. I am here today to talk about the upcoming transit of the nodes of the moon. We have, as most of you who follow astrology know, the nodes of the moon have been transiting in Scorpio, the south node, and Taurus for the north node for the last 18 months. Well, at the end of this month, or the middle of the month, July 17th, we have the nodes moving into the signs of Aries and Libra. So we'll have a north node in Aries and the south node in Libra, and that transit will occur for the next 18 months. Now, the nodes are not planets and you can't see them in the sky. They are points of reference that we use in astrology to describe the evolution of our collective destiny, right? And they very much, because they are the nodes of the moon, very much follow the pulse of the lunar events, which is why eclipses are significant to the transits of the nodes at any given time. So we've just gone through 18 months of eclipses that were in Taurus and Scorpio. And when the nodes hit planets or points like the sun and the moon, when the eclipses occur, the nodes make things a lot bigger. So it amplifies the need for evolution, which is why we see change in our lives and in the collective during solar eclipses and lunar eclipses. They're very, very powerful. The nodes are designed to be powerful. That part of the cosmos is designed to be powerful because moving all of us along towards our collective destiny. We all have nodes in our birth charts and they're different. And if you read your birth chart or have your birth chart read and look at that from the perspective of the nodes of the moon, can give you a lot of information on what you're here to do. So let's talk about the nodes moving into Aries and Libra. This happening on July 17th, which interestingly enough is the same day that we're having a new moon in Cancer, which I won't talk about today, but that is happening. The nodes are moving on July the 17th, and we will experience our first eclipse, a solar eclipse, on October 14th in the sign of Libra. Now let's talk a little bit about the signs of Libra and Aries. So North Node Aries, ruled by Mars, which represents the first house in the zodiac, which is all about you, as a person, right? Especially if you're an Aries rising, but it's all about the I. It's about how you take care of yourself physically, how you take action, how you initiate. Aries is a cardinal fire sign. So it's about sparking things up and starting things, getting things moving, being the pioneer, showing courage and bravery. And that and also checking yourself, like, where do I stand? Am I independent? Am I speaking up for myself? Am I taking care of my body? And am I standing up for what I believe in and actually taking action to make a difference where I'm concerned? We've had Chiron moving through Aries for quite some time, and Chiron is the wounded healer, and that is where we can have those personal wounds come up, whether they're physical or emotional. Depends on where Chiron's transiting in your chart, and definitely significant if you're having a Chiron return. So that means that during the time that the nodes are in Aries and Libra, we're going to be watching the movement of the planet Mars, as well as the eclipses. And the South Node, which will be in Libra, ruled by Venus, is the planet that we'll be watching on the South Node. So the South Node basically represents what it is that we already know, what we are familiar with in many ways, or the past. The North Node in Aries, or the North Node anywhere, represents where we're moving towards or what we're learning that's new. I'm not of the belief that it's leaving something completely behind to go to a new destiny. It's just like any other opposition, it's a balance of the two. And so we'll be balancing our physical selves and our psychological selves with that of other people, right? Aries is is the first house, and Libra is the seventh house. So that's the relational angle. So this transit of the nodes in Aries and Libra has a lot to do with relationships, and how we will interact or balance things out when it comes to other people in our lives. So this transit with Taurus and Scorpio that we're just finishing up here, Taurus ruled by Venus and Scorpio ruled by Mars and Pluto, very significant. But it's interesting, right? It's the same planets, but the archetypes are different because the signs are different. So we're still dealing with some of those elements, but just in a different flavor. Now, if you have planets, personal planets especially, or points, when I say points, significantly and most importantly would be the rising sign, the IC, which is the cusp of your fourth house, home and family and foundation, and history, the cusp of the seventh house, the descendant angle, which is about our relationships and partnerships, and then the midheaven, which is the top of the chart, which talks about our career, how we're seen out in the world, our reputation, our responsibilities. If you have planets or points in those areas, as the nodes transit and the degrees get close, and the eclipses are touching those, these eclipses that we are going to be experiencing could actually show up in your life as very significant change. Again, if you have a sun, a moon, of course, a rising, that's the point, Venus, Mars, and if your nodes are in Aries and Libra, very significant time period in the next 18 months. So keep an eye on those planets, Venus and Mars, and the eclipses that are going to be coming up in the next 18 months. First one, October 14th, 2023. Okay, so I mean, we know that when the nodes have been in Scorpio and Taurus, we've all experienced, and this kind of will give you a little bit of an idea of the types of things, but experienced at least observing collectively a lot of change. Scorpio represents change and transformation, and that can be through loss or including death. It can be about money. It can be about emotional issues. It can be about secrets. And then the North Node in Taurus, which is all about rebuilding our lives, our resources, and finances, and the land, and all of the things that we've been watching happen in the last 18 months that have significantly changed. And again, if you have points or planets in Taurus and Scorpio, this has been a significant time for Taurus and Scorpio people. Have seen a lot of change in their life that hasn't been entirely easy. I mean, South Node, Scorpio ruled by Pluto and Mars, those are not easy changes to deal with. So we are moving into Aries and Libra, again, Venus and Mars, but a lot more relational, I think. I'm not going to say that it isn't going to be difficult because, again, the nodes of the moon are amplifying whatever they touch. And so these changes and events and what we will see in the world will be significant. But personally, look for your points and your angles. Okay, I want to take a look and show you at the chart and show you what I am babbling about here. So you get a little bit of a graphic. And I'm going to throw my glasses on like I always do, and I pull the chart up so that I can see. And here you see this chart is for July 17th, 2023. You can see here that we are just coming into a new moon in Cancer. So that should be interesting. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I will talk about that very, very soon, this new moon in Cancer. But for the nodes, you can see they're going to be at 29 degrees North Node Aries and 29 degrees South Node Libra. So check your charts for anything between, 10 degrees, right? So 19 and 29 degrees can even affect you if you have later degrees of Taurus and Scorpio. So check your charts and see if you've got anything that's going to be hit right out of the gate with this shift of the nodes into Aries and Libra. We do have significantly affecting the nodes, and I've talked about this before, the square to Pluto, which is in the sign of Capricorn retrograde right now. And this square to the nodes, Pluto's square to the nodes, will be in effect through October. So when we have a planet or we have Pluto square the nodes, this is a very powerful push towards our collective destiny. So that is a very powerful transformation, changes, upsets in some cases, but it really feels kind of like a push, like a grinding and polishing and of something retrograde right now, something from the past potentially, before we move into Pluto going back into Aquarius here in the future. So the Pluto square the nodes is very, very potent. And I'm sure we're all feeling some kind of push to move forward, to evolve. And that right now is still in the Taurus and Scorpio. It's finishing up there. We will have another eclipse in the sign of Taurus in late October. And that's kind of how it works. It's like the nodes will move, but the eclipses will pick up the sign from the past in some way. It overlaps just slightly, right? So it's always about going back and cleaning things up, isn't it? So very significant push here between now and the end of October with Pluto square the nodes. Pluto is saying we need to get the memos, right? Well, like I said, we're going to be watching where Mars and Venus are throughout the entire transit of the nodes in Aries and Libra. And right now, interestingly, we have Venus in the sign of Leo, and by then Mars will be just entering the sign of Virgo. So Venus will be just about to start her retrograde in the sign of Leo, and she will be sextiling the South Node and trining the North Node. So this is bringing in right away potentially something from the past. We do have the squares that I mentioned before of Venus to Uranus, which is creating ruptures and breaks and surprises and changes that are designed to move us forward into the future, Uranus. And we can have right out of the gate with the retrograde Venus in the sign of Leo, we can have some things coming back to be worked on. Could mean the return of a relationship. This could have something to do with finances. I think I went over this before. This could have something to do with children. But Venus is the ruler of the South Node, interestingly enough. So maybe there's something there that we're reviewing or cleaning up, revisiting potentially. And it could be to be letting it go, or it could be to have more experiences and evolve something in our lives, right? In the Libra and Aries part of our charts. And definitely take a look at where Aries and Libra is in your chart, because that is very important. This is definitely, because it's relational, to me represents how we take care of ourselves, right? How have we healed? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we start new things? That's Aries. And how do we balance that with relationships? You know, Libra wants balance. Nothing else stands in the sign of Libra, but balance. And a lot of times that can mean to create emotional balance or balance within relationships or finances or whatever it is. We have to work with somebody else, which, you know, that's we're all doing that. We're all working with other people all the time. But how do we create balance? Well, if, you know, if we can't get cooperation, or we don't want to cooperate, Aries, because there's, you know, a lower expression of Aries, where we're just going to get what we want and we don't, you know, bulldoze through and we don't care. Aries is the god of war, so we can cause problems and ruckus and all that kind of stuff. But Libra wants balance. So, you know, depending on which side we sit on in terms of our personality and how we act things out in our lives, Libra could be overgiving. It still wants balance. So it might be overgiving, but maybe it's overgiving because it expects something in return. So there's passive aggressive and things like that. Libra can be very codependent, or it can be manipulative in its quest to obtain balance. That would be the lower expression of Libra, right? But really what this is talking about is balancing out our relationships with other people, whatever form that takes. Yes, it could be romantic relationships, but it could also be, you know, in our work, or it could be, you know, in the area of our health and our daily routines. It could be with our children. It could be with our home life. It could be any of those things. Just be emotionally. That's what we're dealing with during this transit of these nodes, is everything regarding relationships. And when I look at this, I think to myself, well, this kind of feels like a two halves don't make a whole. We have to know who we are and be willing to accept responsibility for that and take charge of our own life, and also be able to work within relationships. So anything that would be codependent or overly aggressive, there is not going to stand during this nodal transit, in my opinion, or we'll see issues come up relating to imbalance of self and other people within our relationships. So we will watch, like I said, Venus, and we will watch Mars. Mars will be in the sign of Virgo, just going into the sign of Virgo at the time the nodes change. And Virgo is all about cleaning things up, right? Taking an accounting of what's going on. Virgo can be very picky. So at this time when the nodes switch, it could be like, oh, we just got to clean things up and get things together. Could be within relationships. It could be your actual work. It could be about your body. Virgo is very much about the body and the things that you eat. And it's also about being of service to other people. And Mars and Virgo can be very critical and sort of take charge because it wants process, right? Process operationally, everything should be working smoothly. So it should be very interesting how possibly some of these things return to us to be dealt with or worked with, and whether or not it involves some kind of eruption or change in our finances or our relationships, and then how we decide to start putting it together. Or maybe we were a little bit over, we sort of overshot in terms of trying to put things together, and push people away. Mars and Virgo, again, very much wants perfection. So this could help break away from something that's not healthy. It could also create a break because it's done too much, right? It's done too much. So interesting. And I'm going to talk more about the retrograde in Leo as we go, especially when I do the next the new moon video that's coming up on July 17th. I'd like to hear how this last full moon was for all of you. Quiet and kind of peaceful here for me. I am happy to report. But yeah, drop it down in the comments. I'd like to hear. The last time that the nodes were in, I should say, I'm going to stop the share here. The last time that the nodes were in Aries and Libra was in 2004, so about 2004 to 2006. So you can think back, especially if you have Libra or Aries placements or your nodes in Aries and Libra, think back to what changed for you, what happened, right? If you have personal placements, Sun, Moon, Venus, what happened before that? The nodes, North Node Aries, South Node Libra, were transiting in the same place, was back in 1986 and 1987, right? So when you think about 86 and 87 and even 2004 to 2006, especially the 86, 87, and I know my kids were young then, and I was a young mom working, trying to get my career started. Kids had to really be able to do a lot of things on their own. I think a lot of kids had to grow up really fast back then, and so they're used to taking action and taking charge, and there is potentially a lot of masculine energy there, maybe even aggression, that they've had to work through possibly, and that could be the same type of themes for the time period of 2004 to 2006. You'll have to see. Now, also, I should say too, if you've got a North Node in Libra and a South Node in Aries, you are having a reverse nodal return, which will be significant for you as well. So check your charts for that too. But yeah, we'll be watching the movements of Venus and Mars, and especially during this Venus retrograde, and see what's coming up. And I'd like to hear what's coming up for you, or if you remember what happened 2004, 2006, or in 86 or 87. Let me know in the comments. If you are having a nodal return, or any of your if you have any points or personal placements and are at Aries or Libra, and you'd like to take a look at your chart and see what's going on, my email and my website are down below, and I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, this is a big change, right? These are more changes, more situations coming in, largely around relationships for the next 18 months. So hold on to your hat, especially during this retrograde, because Venus is kicking this nodal transit off with a bang. So anyway, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. And I'll see you soon in another video. And until then, may the stars forever be in your favor. Take good care. Bye for now.